what I work on mainly is phonetics and phonology and sociolinguistics, and the space in between, which is called sociophonetics. And actually, in sort of layman terms, what this means is I'm really interested in the production and perception of speech, and in particular, how speech and language helps us to construct and reflect personal speaker-related identities. So I'm interested in how the speech tells us about everything about the person, from how they're feeling, they might be nervous or excited, to the different people they hang out with, to the larger social groups they're with, to very specific kind of activities and sort of social practices that they might engage in. So it's basically speech and identity is my thing. So my lectures were all about how work in social phonology can actually give us information for the grammar and language more generally. So specifically, I gave 4 lectures. One was about what I call the ecology of language. So basically the fact that language varieties belong to their place, just like a garden. Every garden is different, and the language and variety that grows up within that garden belongs to that space. And then thinking especially about how we collect data, so how we record people, if we collect them in a lab, or if we collect them, record people in a pub or in a school, how that affects how we speak and what happens. And then the second one was looking at trying to move away from always working with standard languages. So what happens when we look at gendered varieties or ethnic varieties or working class varieties or patois or dialect or so on? And that, because people tend to work mainly on the standard, their view of language is very skewed by that. And in fact, by doing that, even the theories about language are skewed by that. So that what they think is possible for language is very skewed by, for example, mainly working on English and a certain type of English. And then my third lecture was about variation and how linguistic variation can be helpful rather than some kind of difficulty. And especially I was working on aspects of speech and language which work together. So one of the things I looked at was clicking. So for example, we might go, "That's very sad," or "Well, I'm about to start talking now." And clicks are really interesting because they're part of the phonetics. They're part of the conversation. They help us manage our conversation, but they also carry social meaning. So for example, I understand in French, there's a particular type of click which is regarded as quite ethnic, the sort of type click, which has a lot of social meaning in France. And we also have different clicks too. And the question is, linguistically, is where do these sounds belong? Because actually, you have to learn your language and learn your phonology and learn your pragmatics to get the clicks right. You don't just produce them, you actually learn them. The last thing I did was I talked about how we can scale up, how we can use corpora, speech corpora and spoken language corpora. And there is an interest in using machine learning, regression, classification type experiments within Axis 2. And I'm using all those techniques with my colleagues as well, looking at a big project called Speech Across Dialects of English. And so I was looking at how we understand what English is really like when you look at 1.3 million tokens of English across 64 different dialects. And on the one hand, we confirm what we know about English phonology, but on the other hand, we also learn new things about what's going on. That's fundamentally what I did, and it was very interesting. Well, there's 2 parts to that. There's the professional part and the personal part. So professionally, this was a very rewarding time for me. I was very fortunate in being hosted by the Laboratoire de Linguistique Formelle, sorry for the pronunciation, but the LLF, and I enjoyed my conversations very much. Particularly being able to talk to students and researchers in syntax and semantics was really special for me. And start collaborating with Heather was very helpful. I enjoyed the Labex Symposium very much. That was a really interesting day, what I attended of it. I also had the opportunity to work more with colleagues at the LPP. So I was engaged in some soutenance for master's students. And in fact, as a result of this, I'm now going to be co-supervising a PhD student at LPP Sorbonne Nouvelle, which is, very nice and sort of the right sort of thing we should be doing. And I've also been able to collaborate with a project which is run across LLF, LPP, and Listen, which is the computational lab at Saclay. And we were able to give our first talk at the LSRL, the big Romance Linguistics Conference on Monday, which is putting together and using automatic computational segmentation to get the computer to listen to speech. And this is very novel, but what's particularly novel is that we did this on some data which is Scottish and some data which is French, Quebec French, and compare the results. And that was really amazing. We started in November, but I was actually able to work quite closely with Laurie Lamel, Martina de Decker, and Ioana Vasilescu, Ioana Chitoran, and our shared postdoc, Melanie Lancienne. So that's the professional was very strong. Personally, it's been very enjoyable. I'm a musician, so I have been going to lots of concerts. I'm particularly fond of French church organ music, which is very special in France, the organ tradition. So I have gone to hear the grand organ at Saint-Eustache a number of times. And I've also been going to exhibitions. And my favorite exhibition was at the Atelier des Lumières, the Chagall and Paul Klee, which was wonderful. And yes, I've had a great time, and obviously eating out, etc. has been very nice. I have to say I've been working quite hard. But it's been a wonderful experience, and I would recommend it to anybody to apply because it's a really special opportunity, and I'm very grateful to Labex EFL for hosting me. Thank you.